We don't joke about those sort of things.
Oh, yes, sorry. We just do that, yeah.
But it is warm.
Okay, it is 1 minute after the hour, so thank you everyone for joining our session, which is like third or fourth since the start of IC users meetings. And this session is going to be devoted to Inuvion. To the best of my understanding, David will correct me, Inuvion means that it's innovative. At the same time, it's new, like novus, I hear that. And as usual, it ends with ion, which means it's an ion chromatograph. And it's a baby of a huge joint effort, which David was part of the team. He's a senior product manager for Integrion, as you know, launched in 2017, as I remember. And now David is back for the launch for Inuvion. The team of product managers also included some other people like Kayana Bobrovniki and some others. David here is representing that entire team, and he's going to talk about the technological advancements and features of the Inuvion ion chromatograph. And Terry Christensen is a senior application scientist in Sunnyvale, California. She had a chance to work with Inuvion longer than some other people, close to over a year, or close to a year. And she will share with you in the second part of the presentation her personal perspective, feelings, findings, comments, comparisons. So with that, I will turn this over to David. He will start the presentation with slides, and then Terry will take over with a direct stream from the lab. As usual, this presentation is recorded and will be posted on a YouTube. Everyone who has registered and as well as attended will receive from me a follow-up link to that recording. So I will shut up now my microphone and let you go, David.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Alex. And yes, and Alex has been very kind of forthright to me. Alex is not a keen marketer, I would say, and he definitely wants us to look in detail at exactly what's in the system that really speaks to the requirements and the needs that we've heard from you. So that's what this session is going to be focused on. It's kind of delving into all the updates that we have made. Some of them are visible on the outside, some of them are internal. So we will be proceeding through like that. Okay, so top level, we have the Dionex Inuvion ion chromatography system, and as Alex mentioned, yes, it's kind of a play on words with the innovation, because the whole system has been completely redesigned from the ground up. The major need that we have heard from you all is that you need reliability in your system. And that reliability really speaks to the ability to run day after day. So that's the approach we've taken, and that philosophy really has kind of gone all the way through the design. Dionex Inuvion is actually one platform, but within that platform, there are three key systems. We start out with the Dionex Inuvion core, which is the system you can see on the left. The Inuvion core is focused on chemical suppression, but otherwise, the rest of the system is exactly how you would want it. So high pressure capable, upgradable, adding in accessories, and everything you need there. The only absent part, apart from the electrolytic suppression, is eluent degas, which is not present in Inuvion core. Going to the Dionex Inuvion system, then you add in electrolytic suppression and eluent degas. Again, all the options that we discussed previously can be added into this. And then at the far right, you see the Dionex Inuvion with RFIC, which adds in the ability to have eluent generation as well. I will discuss it later as well, but one real key aspect to note is that you can freely upgrade between these platforms. You don't need to be locked into the decision you make now for the later date. Okay, so in the Dynex Inuvion core system, there are some options and various kind of standard items in there. So just going round briefly on these, we have digital gas pressure regulator. So this will help you to observe what the gas pressure applied to your eluent bottles is. It will help you to exert control over that. So there's direct access to turn this on from the front panel and within Chromatograph as well. The temperature controlled conductivity detector has been completely redesigned, and we will be exploring that in great detail in a few slides. There's an integrated regenerant pump. So this is especially useful for those running chemical suppression, where you can deliver your regenerant solution with the regen pump, or you could use this for water for carbonate removal device that you may want to add as well. We have a seal wash pump. This is optional as well for reducing the maintenance needed on any piston seals or pistons themselves, so that you can kind of be assured of continual running. The eluent monitor is another option. You may have seen Terry briefly demonstrating that, and I'm sure she'll go into it more in person. We mentioned the continuously regenerated chemical suppression, and then there's the high pressure pump as well. So 5,000 psi or 35 megapascals. This is standard across all the Inuvion systems, even the Inuvion core. When we look at the Inuvion and the Inuvion RFIC systems, we add in some additional capabilities. So if we take out the regenerant pump, we have the auxiliary valve space that you can use for sample preparation. As I mentioned, the eluent vacuum degassing is available in the Inuvion and the Inuvion RFIC. Of course, the eluent generation capability, electrolytic suppression, and then column heater. Column heater is actually an option for all Inuvions, so from the Inuvion core on upwards as well. Can be okay. Would you be able to just mute Alex? Can you mute Dan Atherton? I think. Thank you. Okay, so what I want to do is talk about the key aspects that go into the design and the key needs that we've heard. So the first of these is reliability, as mentioned before. And reliability really doesn't just extend to, is the system running, but it's whether the results that you're getting are reproducible, and whether the performance, the high performance you get is reliable. Then lastly, the third aspect to consider is around the high uptime, to make sure that the system's running exactly when you need it. The second of the three aspects, we've had reliability. The second key aspect that we've heard as a major need is around saving. So saving space, saving user time when operating it, and saving IC instrument time. So making sure that you can get your results out as quickly as possible, so that you can increase your lab's throughput. Had reliability, savings, and then the third need that we've heard is around adaptability. So we know that your labs require to kind of adapt to whatever needs come your way, and so an investment in an ion chromatography system is for the long term. So you need to know that it's going to meet your needs for the next however many years, 7+ years. You need the system to be adaptable, and adaptability is both around the simplicity to learn and use, but also making sure that the system can meet your configuration needs. So those are the three pillars that have guided the design: reliability, savings, and adaptability. What we'll do now is go in detail into each of the features that speak to these three pillars. So first, reliability. We've mentioned the high-performance pump technology and completely redesigned electronics that will enhance dependability and quality of results. There are also system self-diagnostics. These are generally hidden away from the operator viewpoint, and you will only be aware of them, if there is an issue, in which case there's detailed recording of those issues so that any fixes can be made easily. And then, of course, the ability to have reagent-free IC both simplifies, but also making sure that you're getting consistent results. Okay, so the pump module. Those of you who are familiar with Thermo Scientific's HPLC offerings will be familiar with the Vanquish Flex. What we have done within the Inuvion system is utilize that inherently stable and high performance pump that's found in the Vanquish Flex and adapted that to be suitable for ion chromatography. So in particular, this is making sure that the entire flow path is peak based so that there is no possible contamination there. And then also kind of adapting for appropriate seal washes and things like that. So this pump you'll find down at the base of the Inuvion system. And you can see kind of a small schematic here where you've got on the left is the rear of the pump. You can see the piston and the two black check valves that allow the flow in. You'll also notice up at the top, this is where the seal wash would plug in. It's kind of indicated in gray. And again, this is recommended, but is completely optional to help lubricate the piston and the seal to enable or to ensure limited maintenance needed for those parts. And it's especially useful if you are running manually prepared eluents, which may be acidic or maybe salts on the system to ensure that any salts are not deposited and are washed away. Okay, so this is the seal wash pump. As I mentioned, it is optional and can remove salt buildup and increases lubrication on the system, so enhancing the seal and piston lifetime. See, it's a small peristaltic pump there that will deliver a wash fluid through into the pump. This is completely automated, so once installed, it's hands-free, and you'll essentially barely notice that it's there. Okay, the Inuvion CD detector. So there are a number of big enhancements that have been made to the CD detector that make it miles better than you may be used to if you were using prior instrumentation like the Dionex Aquion system. So the first part is that we have made it essentially immune to any external interferences. So, for example, if there's other switches going on and off, electronic switches in the system, you're not going to get any interferences within the trace itself. The way we've accomplished that is basically converting almost the entire electronic system to digital, where previously some of the front-end components were still analog. We're using common mode electrodes input, and we are grounding the waistlines so that any static buildup, for example, is not discharged and causing glitches there. Secondly, the team has worked really hard on making the noise as low as it can go. So we've part of that is the cell thermostating. So this is been accomplished with board placement, so the control board placement on the system, redesigning the cell electronics, and then also getting very tight thermal insulation on the conductivity cell. And so we're getting kind of less than a 10,000th of a degree variation in the actual temperature of the cell there. And then another piece which may be overlooked is welding cleanliness. So in terms of the quality that you would expect and our quality control, this is something that we even pay attention to that can affect the noise of the cell. So looking in detail at even things like the welding. Welding. Another improvement that's been made is in the range transitions. So if you have extremely large peaks that are coming out, where we're going above 3,000 microsiemens, for example, you can see in older systems, you can see a slight jump where it is transitioning from one range of output to another. You won't see that at all with Inuvion, where there is careful calibration and adjustment done between them so that you don't see those jumps between ranges. And then lastly, the cell volume in the CD has been minimized greatly, which then impacts the peak shapes. You'll get great peak shapes coming out without any tailing. This is just a look into some of the components of the CD cell. So for example, the fluidic path. This heat exchanger is where a lot of the additional volume has historically come in. So looking into there and just kind of the focusing on the detail to minimize volumes, but still achieve exactly the performance. The column heater. So one of the most visible benefits actually with the redesigned column heater, for those of you familiar with instruments like the ICS 1000, 1100 or Acreon, is that we have now transitioned to a magnetic cover on this oven. So that can just be placed on and it will clip immediately in. So that's a great kind of piece of user interface improvement. However, the components have been designed to ensure that we have that great range, so up to 60 degrees C, tightly controlled on the oven, 5 degrees C above ambient, and we have measured the accuracy at 2 different points, 2 common temperatures, to ensure that no matter what temperature you're running your system at, you can make sure that you have the perfect accuracy on there. Small components such as the retaining clips, which should be extremely simple to use, and an integrated preheater into the column oven as well, with again optimized kind of connections coming in and out of that. Just make it both simple to use and have highlighted the performance aspect of this to ensure you get reliable results. It's just a kind of a small further look into the column oven with the engineering drawings that you can see here, the integrated preheater shown here on the top left. And then you can see the improvements that have been made around insulation on here, as well as making sure that you're getting those usability improvements with the magnetic. Okay, the digital gas regulator. So giving a small kind of peek into this. So on the front of the system, you'll just see the digital readout. And then to the right of that is kind of the on-off button for the pressure there. On the rear, you can see the knob that will set the gas pressure, so that you can kind of tailor it to needs there, and then you can see incorporation, the internals here. One of the big benefits of this, of course, is that you have continuous visibility on your gas pressure to make sure that you're getting continuous pressure applied to that. well as writing to audit trails so that you can go back and check your performance and compliance with any SOPs you have. And then you can also look into incorporating into triggers within Chromatograph so that you can issue alerts or even stop runs if needed as per your. Okay, so this one, I hope I'm allowed to show this to you. So this is actually a view into the insides of the Inuvion system. Typically, you would not be accessing here, and we do say that you have service engineers who go into here. But I think it's important just to show this so that you can see some of the complexity that we've taken out of the system, and that's really critical to make sure that you can get your instruments serviced easily, as well as kind of showing the quality that has been brought here. So you can see the very logical layout of the circuit boards inside here. Those of you who've had the chance before to kind of see inside a system, you may have seen much more complex with cables kind of going all over the place. That can then lead to potential interferences if they are going over like that. And so minimizing cables, making a logical, simple layout inside there really helps to ensure the reliability, the serviceability of your system. On the right, you can see this is the other side of the Inuvion system with the pump mechanism down at the bottom here. And you can see that we've kind of isolated some internal paths for like waste lines or anyone coming in from the top of the system. So this removes external tubing, which makes it simpler for your operators to use, as well as making sure that they are completely separated from any sensitive components. Again, the accessibility for field service engineers to get into the system and to maintain them is vastly improved from prior equipment, and can make sure that even in the unlikely chance that something goes wrong, that you can get quickly back up and running. Okay, so that is talking about the reliability of the system. Now on to savings. So a big part of savings is making sure that the system is easy to operate, both for experienced users and for novice users. And so looking at the full design of the system and the user interface, and making sure that you can access quickly and safely everything on there. There are updates using Chromatograph and internal firmware in the system to make sure that automated startup and shutdown routines can be optimized for the system to make which will enable you to make sure that the system's up and running and ready for the day's work without additional user intervention. And then we have simplified as well by building into Chromatograph some how-to videos. So for common needs that you'll have on the system, you can show your operators these videos how to do that. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of the aspects on here, but just to show that there is a lot of components on the front of the system. You can see in general that the layout is very clean and not overly complicated with tubing. This is really important because when it comes time to change a column, for example, or change a suppressor, you don't want to have to be tracing various bits of tubing to see exactly where they're going. So having the logical, clean layout on the front of the system really does help sure that you don't spend too much time doing these necessary work. And this is just to highlight, this is the more complex system, the Inuvion core, which has the regenerant pump as well plumbed in here. This is just the rear of the system, just to highlight kind of some of the additional aspects you have here, some of the typical connectors and input outputs that you need here, as well as optional low pressure valves that can be installed on the rear. The integrated auxiliary valve. So a lot of you may be performing additional sample preparation activities, and so having the auxiliary valve to help take care of that, and not needing to have this in a separate system, really will help kind of simplify the process of doing the sample preparation. It does use the same panel opening as the regenerant pump, so you do need to choose between the regenerant pump and the auxiliary valve. If you needed both, then you would have to look into probably either having the auxiliary valve placed into autosampler, or you could have an external pump. Talk briefly about the low pressure auxiliary valves. So these will be placed on the rear. Something that we haven't noted before, you can kind of see in Terry's kind of lab shot there, is the depth of the system is much reduced compared to prior instruments, whether it's the Aquion or the Integrion. And so this means that any rear install components like these low pressure valves are much more accessible as well, in addition to basically all the components on the rear of the system. So that's something that may not be apparently noticeable, is that we've kind of shrunk in terms of the depth of the system. The integrated regenerant pump, again, this is an improvement from prior models, in that pump is now fully controlled within as part of the Inuvion system with Chromatograph control as well. So you can dial in the flow rate needed, and you can use that for suppressor or carbonate removal device regenerant. The eluent monitor, you can see that glowing in Terry's image up at the top as well. We have two models available for the eluent monitor, and it's really critical to note that this is, so it's balance based. Essentially, you can kind of see the four, or you can see two of them on Terry's thing. So there's a holder at the bottom, and when you have the eluent bottle on there, it's calibrated. If you use standard bottles, that's automatically calibrated. And then as your eluent level drops, then it will alert you as to whether you have sufficient eluent in there or not. One great aspect to this that is not always present in these types of eluent monitors is that it's fully free from the eluent itself. So you're not adding additional items into the eluent to detect the level there. And so you can be sure that your eluent is going to be contamination free, which is a key aspect to make sure. These can actually be added to any of the Dynamics ion chromatography systems, which is good. And yeah, you can see that it will change from the green to the red system, red lights. And then you can also put in alerts into Chromatograph as necessary. The great thing about this that I've noticed is, you can be all the way across the lab, look over, and you can immediately tell, yes, I have sufficient eluent. Terry probably remembers from my time in the lab when I'd often be letting it go dry, which you really don't want to do with the systems. Viper fittings also help save time, and they are available in many of the key locations within the Inuvion system. For those of you who aren't familiar, Viper fittings are finger-type fittings you can make into the system. So you don't need to have a wrench to kind of tighten those. You can do them with a single hand. So if you're getting into complex areas, you can do that easily with just a single hand rather than trying to feed in both hands and a tool into certain areas. And you're essentially guaranteed minimized dead volume when you're making these connections. So your performance will be in peak condition. So you're not going to be adding additional dispersal volume there. Just a quick look at the Viper tubing kit that's available. That top one there is actually the preheater in the column oven with the Viper fittings already pre-attached there. The Smart X, so we call it Smart X. So this is talking about the automated kind of startup and shutdown routines. Those are available in the system, and you can see how you can set them here within the Chromatograph instrument method editor. And you can align these to exactly what you want to set up for your system. And essentially it shuts down the system in kind of a predefined order, things like turning off suppressors and eluent generators to make sure that your system's shut down in the optimal way, so that when you come to start it up again the next day, that everything is ready to go as quickly as possible. There's also an option called Smart Standby, which will put your kind of system into essentially a low power mode or a low flow mode, so that the startup's even quicker the next day. So that's if you're not going to be shutting down for too long. One thing probably you're not going to be too exposed to, but just to kind of give another idea about the enhancements that have been made. So there's auto configuration, which just means that when the system's new and you plug it in, you don't actually need to go in and make configuration changes. It'll automatically configure the system directly. Any later changes, of course, the configuration editor is always there. But it just another thing to kind of help speed up the installation, so that goes as smoothly as possible, which then essentially will allow you additional time with your service engineer to ask about potential tips and tricks that they're always quite willing to give to make sure you're operating your system well. Your major kind of interaction with the system may well be through Chromatograph and the e-panels. So we have tried to simplify these as much as possible and layering information so that you have just the most useful, relevant information up front, and then you can always access additional settings if needed. Simplify the interface there. Here it's not showing up, but you can also you can see this schematic button, which is up this kind of the second one from the top. That will show the plumbing layout really of your system, and that will enable you to kind of check what's where on your on the front panel of your system, help you to identify kind of the correct connections. There's also within Chromatograph the Inuvion device troubleshooting. So you can go in here and get instructions about how to identify potential issues with your system, or you can find appropriate installation videos for some of the consumables, and the how-to videos will be present in here as well. Give an example, here's the knowledge base if you're looking at troubleshooting, and then on the right here you've got how to install an eluent generator cartridge if needed, and those do include videos and the text descriptions as well. Okay, so just to remind you, we've gone through reliability and savings, and a lot of the savings we were talking about is kind of in terms of the simplification of the system to make sure that you are able to run well. Adaptability. So I mentioned that the three Inuvion systems, Inuvion Core, Inuvion, and Inuvion RFIC, can be freely upgraded between them. Those will require a service engineer visit, but it means that you're not locked in to whatever decision is best for you now. You can then look to upgrade in the future. The other part of the adaptability is all the options and peripherals to extend your IC capabilities. So we know, not everyone might need a seal wash, for example, and then you can add in the seal wash either now, if your needs require it, or if at a later date you decide that you do need that seal wash, you can then order it. And essentially all the options and peripherals can be installed yourself, so there won't be a need for a service engineer to visit, which means that the cost will be reduced there. Or you could request it to be done at the same time as, for example, a preventive maintenance visit, and that will again keep the cost down there. So these customer installable accessories, they include the column heater, and again these are available on all of the Inuvion systems. So the column heater, regenerant pump, seal wash pump, digital gas regulator, the peak Viper fittings, the Eluent monitor, and the auxiliary valves, to include both the high pressure auxiliary valve on the front, as well as the two low pressure valves on the. In terms of getting the correct Inuvion configuration up front, just a quick run through of this table that kind of details the difference in the default options. So as mentioned, all of the systems will have the high pressure pump up to 5,000 PSI. And I'm not sure if everyone's aware of the importance of this, but we have a huge range of what we call 4 micron columns. So you see 4 micrometer kind of as one of the suffix to the column names. Those mean that the beads, the particles within the columns are actually much smaller, about half the diameter or less of the other columns, which means you can get many more functional groups on those beads, and you can get much better separations, much higher efficiency columns. That means you can either then resolve peaks that maybe you had difficulty resolving before, or you can increase the flow rate or reduce the column size to then get faster analyses done. So these are essentially, the best columns that you can get now, and with the high pressure capability in the Inuvion, you can then take advantage of those. Chemical suppression is an option across the board for all of these. So we have continuously regenerated chemical suppressors. So there's no worry about running out of capacity at any point. We're not taking suppressors offline and then regenerating them. These are continuously regenerated. And that's again available across the whole system, all of the systems. The vacuum pump and degasser. So this will help make sure, it depends on essentially the gassiness of your water supply, whether you really require this or not, but many people do kind of opt for the systems with the degas, and it'll make sure that your pump doesn't lose prying, and make sure that your baseline is nice and quiet. Electrolytic suppression is only available on Inuvion and Inuvion with RFIC. And the big benefit to electrolytic suppression, of course, is that you don't need to make up additional regenerant solutions. You're reducing the complexity of your system, and thus you're going to be saving labor there. Finally, eluent generation is on the Inuvion with RFIC, and that can make sure that you are getting consistent separations every time, even month to month, for example, or between different operators. They're not having to make up eluent there. But that will also save time, and then you have the ability to run gradient separations, which can help you to really optimize the separations you are running and potentially save time. I've kind of discussed already this piece, but essentially almost everything is accessible to operators for either replacing or for updating. Here, only the vacuum degas pump really is something that will need to have a service engineer come out. I'm going to skip over this. I'll give you a quick chance to look at it, but essentially this is part of what we've talked about before. What it does add in is the Integrion systems, which are still available, or one of the Integrion systems is still available, and the ICS 6000 system, which is kind of the top end of the portfolio, and which essentially provides all of the needs that you might have. Again, this is another look into this and showing kind of the differences between the systems. Right now, if you want to go for some of the unusually high flow rates, so above 5 mils per minute, you'd need to be going for the Integrion or the 6000. And then some of the column formats below 2 millimeter ID. So this is the internal diameter of the columns. If you're going below 2 millimeter, then you will also need to go for Integrion and 6000. Otherwise, there's a lot of parity between the systems, and it's essentially if you have requirements in excess of what you can get with Inuvion, then we still have these other items in the portfolio. Okay, so to summarize, I just want to kind of talk through some of the key patents that we have on the system that are enabling us to really meet these core needs that you have around reliability, savings, and adaptability. So the current specific patents that we have related to Inuvion are around the chromatography case. So this is the full enclosure of the system, including the ability to have that reduced depth, the cleanliness of the layout, and the single platform that can be upgraded. The digital gas regulator, enabling both the real-time control and monitoring of the gas pressure. Eluent level sensor, or the eluent monitor. So again, it's non-invasive. Invasive was the term I was looking for before. So non-invasive monitoring to ensure that your eluent is free from any contamination, and maximizing your uptime, ensuring that you don't run dry at all. The RFIC rack, so this is on the top of the system, and again, improves accessibility to the eluent generator that you may have had experience with before. The peristaltic pump, so integrating that into the system to allow for easier control of that pump, and minimizing kind of tubing and cleanliness of layout. And then the conductivity detector, kind of the array of improvements that I discussed before, meaning that you're going to get lower noise and more stable baseline. So you're going to get increased sensitivity in your methods compared to some of the older products. So I'm just going to jump through these again, so you can see some of the details that are going behind here, along with the patents we have. This is the RFIC rack. So again, where the eluent generator is going to be mounted, and you can see that there's an access into this from many sides, so that you can easily get to the connections that are on the base of that eluent generator. Integrated peristaltic pump, and the conductivity detector circuits. There's a lot that goes into this, of course, and it's kind of outside of my skill set to go into the detail of electronics there. But essentially, that's been completely reworked from the ground up to improve. So with that, that's the Inuvion system and kind of a peek inside. Again, probably giving you more of a view into the systems than I've ever given before, which is hopefully interesting and useful for you. If you do want to see kind of more about the system, you can also go to our website, of course, or speak to any of your commercial contacts, your sales representatives. And I'm sure they'd be delighted to walk you through more. And with that, I'll hand back to you, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Now we will turn our attention to Sunnyvale, California lab with Terry and some assisting colleagues of ours behind the scene. Thanks to those as well. They're not visible, but they're very important. Thanks for this to, being able to happen. So if you can go over your experience, Terry, and show the instrument for the real, just point to the components, the way you plan to start it, go ahead and do it, please.
All right. So I'm Terry Christensen. I'm a technical person. I'm a chemist. And I've been in ion chromatography a long time, about 20 years as a Dynamics Thermo Scientific employee. But before that, I was a customer using ion chromatography and other analytical techniques. So I've been around a while. And my excitement for this product, I hope, will be very evident. First of all, I'm a short stature person. So if you point the camera towards the system, see, I don't have to get a step stool to get to the system. I can work on my system if I need to change my bottles, everything just really within my reach. Finally, I have a system that's my size and I can move it around pretty easily. Right now I have a water bottle, so it's a little heavier, but it's really a very compact system and very beautiful. From my opinion. We've often had the santan color, and this is just really a gorgeous color. So this is really a new system from the bottom up. Everything inside is new or borrowed from our HPLC cousins and used for ion chromatography. So first of all, I'd like to point out, excuse me. So we have the flow diagram over here on the right of the system. Can you see that? Okay. So Carl's helping me position the camera here. So we have a flow diagram available, and that's always helpful in plumbing. But I can tell you, this is a really easy IC to plumb and to configure. You can also get the same flow diagram with a QR code here down on the bottom. But I can tell you the engineering groups, we were involved in the alpha and beta testing. The engineering groups just dropped the system off and said, there you go. So we plumbed it all very easily by ourselves. So for the features, of course, here's the pump. And like David mentioned, and I also referred to, it's borrowed from our cousins, the Vanquish Flex pump. So it's already a proven, reliable pump. It's modified, of course, for ion chromatography into a peak material, but it's already a proven pump. And as everyone knows, ion chromatography, one of the most important things is a nice, steady, powerful, capable pump. Okay, and then we have our column heater. So it's really easy to get into, just kind of pull. It's magnetic. And as you can see, I've got the 2mm ID columns installed. I could switch these little gray things so that I could put a 4mm column in very easily, or switch the heat transfer tubing over to 4mm flow tubing. And also installed here, I also have peak tubing installed in my column heater area with my columns. And like I said, this 2mm ID columns, very easy to work with. No struggle. Those of you who may have had our older models may have had to struggle a little to get that on, but it's just really quite easy. So another nice feature that we've asked for and that they've supplied. Engineering did a great job. And here, of course, is our valve. Right now, again, most of it's plumbed with peak tubing. This would be where your auto sampler would come in. On the other hand, they've also made right up here a port release. I have gloves on. But right here, you can have a manual injection. Very easy to get to. Really rather cool for those of you who love your manual injections. And it comes out right here on the side of the column heater. You don't even have to fuss with it. It shows up around here, and then I could connect it then in place to where the auto sampler is. Also prominent is our peri pump for the seal wash and the degasser right here for our element generate or for our pump degas. And this little guy is our regen pump. It's really quite easy. I installed it myself a couple days ago, and it just has a couple of pins and there's a cable in the back. Just connect it to the cable. Likewise, if I prefer to have a valve, I would have it in this position. So I can only do really one or the other, but my auto sampler is capable of having an extra valve. So pretty cool. I want to show you how easy it is to install peri tubing. I know some of us have had peri tubing before, and it can be quite a struggle. This is, you just slide it in. See these little gaps here? If my hand's out of the way here, and then you just put it in place, and make sure you can have it pretty even on both sides, and then clamp it up. Now the programming of it, I'll show you, I guess, a little later. On my panel. So the other really cool thing I love is all my tubes now go through these nice channels. I don't have them all flailing everywhere. This goes to the waste. This goes up on top to where my eluent is. And really nice, really very cool. They're fairly large channels, maybe about an inch or so in diameter. So easy to stuff all your tubings through, and it's really, really cool. Right now I have installed a chemical suppressor over here on the kind of the moderate right of the system. Right here could be a CRD, or if we were to use our recycled suppressor, the DRS suppressor, we would install it here. And notice we have with ADRS, it is electrolytic suppressor. So we have these cool little hidden doors. So if you plug it in here, you see that? Plug it in here, the extra cord would go down this slot and installed over here. Very, very cool. And the same way with our back pressure tubing on the CD cell, there's a little slot here. We hide away that extra tubing. So very visual, very nice, very cool. The peak tubing, couldn't really see that well. I hope you can see it here. Let me close the door for a moment, maybe. Can you see? So it's a very small little interface. It's very flat. And that's the really important part for good chromatography, is that very flat surface means an almost perfect interface between this and the valve, thereby minimizing your void volume. And that makes prettier peaks and less tailing in your peaks. So I also want to point out, we have all these great carrier areas, little slots for all our tubing up here and over here on the side to kind of keep everything, all prettied up. We have and then a nice magnetic door closure. So one of the really cool things is I'd like to show you the chameleon as well. So I'm going to share. This is the console. So right here is where I'd like to have you look. And right now I have my hand on the bottle, eluent bottle, and I'm going to lift it up, and now it's going to turn red. So not only do we have a visual reflection of what the bottle has, the volume of water in the bottle, but it's also reflected here in the panel. So, for both, we're getting a redundancy to kind of help you, tell you how much volume you have in your eluent bottle. And I have, so let's switch back here, maybe, so back here. So I also want to show you that hidden behind the second bottle is all the RFIC modules. So we have the trap column and the degas, and over here also the eluent generator bottle. So again, very easy to get to. It has a nice EO up here, very, very nice. But we have designed the new eluent degasser to kind of fit into this module here. Yeah. And our favorite, visuals are great. So there. Or I could put the empty bottle in there as well. But you also can see there's where all the tubes from the main part of the IC are coming in from the system. So also I would like to show you some of the chromatography I have. Let me go and share again. So this is chromatography that we generated during our beta testing. This, of course, is a 20-fold dilution of a standard, 6 or 7 injections, and you can see how the great reproducibility is shown here. And if we go to different peaks, we pretty much have reproducibility still down to the 0.1% on retention time, and peak area, probably maximum about 3.3%. Beautiful, beautiful chromatography. This is showing and verifying, yes, our pump is really great, and our eluent generation system is doing a great job. Now, David did mention about the easy configuration. I know some of you may have experienced having to configure a large system, and it's a training process in itself. It's one of the introductions to ion chromatography. So it can be a complex system, but they've finally listened to us and said, no, we're going to make it better for you. So I'm going to remove it from the system here. Okay. And then we're going to go back and add it in. You go to IC Integrated Systems. Here's our Inuvion here. And immediately everything is already configured. Guess what? No more guessing. And while I'm here, you can also see that the eluent monitor itself has its own, it is reflected as its own module. And there really is not much there. The only thing we put in really is going to be what to tare. And it's not happy because I played around with it. Oh, here we go. So this is really the only thing you need to pay attention to is how many bottles you have. Perhaps you need to put in what it is, but you know, the density of most of our solutions are about the same. And you know, whether it's a 2-liter bottle or 4-liter bottle. So we have a couple of different options available to you, but most of us are just going to use a 2-liter bottle, a 4-liter bottle. And you can set your responses to whatever you wish, but you know, 20, 30%, you know, 90% volume, you know, that's good enough. And here's the tare. So tare is at 0. So if you could see, our little element bottle is blinking right now, and that's because I've changed the element monitor. Okay, now everybody's happy, fully configured, and we're back to where we are. So the Inuvion itself has a pretty simple panel. Again, the element bottles are reflected down here. All the parameters that we need for running our system are all listed on the front page here, right on the middle of the panel, and then the chromatography here. So pretty easy, pretty clean. They mention some of the tools up here. And consumables, all the installation instructions here for the products are here. So let's see how I'm doing here on my list. So the methods themselves are very easy to transfer. Essentially, because this is a Dynamics IC system, you can transfer your methods from any Integrion down very easily because the commands are the same. The identification of the channel and the detector all have the same names. So the method transfer is very easy. And other detectors can be used with the system in addition to conductivity, of course. It is completely compatible with the VWD for wavelengths for applications like bromate by PCR, the EPA 300.1 Part B, and hexavalent chrome EPA 218.7, which is also a post-column reagent application, and will be compatible with combustion IC as well. So these are some of the things I love. Of course, I love the nice, beautiful shape. And of course, with chromatography, we must have a great pump. So we have a great pump with this system, all shown by our data. And it's fully compatible with all our consumables previously. The only really new consumable for the chemistry portion would be the degas module, and that's mostly a beauty and a function to attach to the system. So it's shown that it's a great product, very reliable, and born to run. So I hardly used my time here. I will say that we have done our own installable modules. All the optional modules, we've done that ourselves as well. Let's see, I did forget to talk about the digital regulator. So right here is the display for the digital regulator. and it's used to control a low pressure gas flow for headspace, primarily for those manually prepared eluents. We noticed about every 3 days, if without gas regulation, or if you don't have a pump degasser in your system for eluent generation, that you'll have some changes in the water bottle itself. So for 4 millimeter, where you're flowing very fast and you're using a lot of eluent, you probably won't notice. But for lower flow rates, you need to have maybe some headspace.
Terry,
Yes, sir.
one question. Would you be able to just show, because it didn't come up on my presentation, the schematic
Oh,
view
yes.
on,
One more time.
no, on Chromeleon?
Oh, on Carmelian. Okay. I'm not sure where that is.
So it's on the main panel. If you exit out,
on the, okay.
there's the second, sorry, on Inuvion tab.
Oh, okay.
And then it's the second
oh, right
button
there.
down.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Sure. I learned something today too.
So this will adapt, to whatever system you've got configured. So this is, of course, the Inuvion with RFIC version. Brilliant. Thank you, Terry. Yeah, that was just a request that came through the chat.
Okay. Yeah, here's all the others. So this one, if you use the regen pump and you're going to use it for like chemical regenerant or for the CRD, here's the controls of the regen pump. Very simple. You select the flow rate and turn it on. And again, unlike many Perry pumps, the tubing is very easy to replace and very easy to install. So I believe that's all I was going to talk about. I didn't think it was going to take me an hour either way.
And I just want to highlight, thank you so much, Terry, that Terry she's a hard customer to please, but yeah, when she gets what she needs, she gets very excited. So thank you so much, Terry.
Sure, I'm very excited about this product. You guys are going to love it. You're really going to love it.
Okay, so back to you, Alex, I think.
Oh, you're muted. You're on mute.
Alex, we can't.
We can't hear you. There you go.
So now is the time for the questions, and I'm looking to, because I did it in the last session, so I'm looking how to unmute all the participants, give them the rights. But dear attendees, if you have a question, please try to unmute yourself and ask the question. Brian, if you can unmute the people, I do not see how I do that for some reason. Okay, so now you can unmute yourself. You see the microphone next to your name now. So go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question. Maybe you would like to spotlight a particular feature in the front or in the back of the instrument, and Terry and Carl can actually do this for you. Or if you're interested in something else from a first-hand experience of Terry, please go ahead and ask that question. You do have the microphone rights now.
Alex, I just noted from Ayana, she said that you've actually turned, I think we had the rights before to unmute ourselves, but now it's turned off, so we can't now. So whatever you just did, can you undo that? Yep, that's perfect.
Okay.
I think
Let's try now.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions, but I'm just checking to see if it's working.
Excellent. Thank you for the brave action. Okay. Any particular feature, any particular part of the instrument that you would like to see, guys?
Hey, David, would you like to answer the question from Kevin on the difference between the Integrion and the Inuvion?
Yes, yeah, I was just going to type it into the chat, but I can address it live instead. So, of course, that really depends on the configuration. Both the Integrion and the Inuvion, you can have various configurations. I would say on a like-for-like basis, you will get a reduced price on the Inuvion system compared to Integrion, though the exact specifics, yeah, again, it depends on the configuration.
Yeah, but do you want to mention our discontinuous program here so they're all aware of what the Inuvion is replacing?
Yeah, so that's a great point. So we are going to be we're going to be keeping the Integrion system that has the thermostatic detector compartment, and especially where you're using this for putting in, for example, the chemical detector. For the remainder of the systems, we will likely be discontinuing those in the near future. And we do have promotions available that can be used to replace existing systems, for example. So if you currently have some of the older systems like the ICS 1100 or an Acreon system, and you want to replace those with a Inuvion, you can take advantage of the promotions. And again, you probably would look to speak with your local sales representative to kind of get the exact discount that they can give to you. I think they'll usually try to give you the maximum available. So yeah, you should be in good hands there.
So those of you who had questions in the chat, did you get your questions answered sufficiently?
If not, please repeat your question either verbally or just type it again.
There is a question from Mary about whether the RFID tags are on the consumables. So if you currently have a system that utilizes those RFID tags, then they will, you'll still be able to buy new consumables that work with those. The Inuvion system, however, doesn't utilize those. So you won't be getting the RFID consumable tracking with Inuvion. But again, there'll be no change to the consumables themselves. If you want to yeah.
Okay. How we're going to go about the price? I mean, you answered that Inuvion is going to be less expensive, but I think we should direct them to the sales reps for the pricing, right? Okay.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
They'll usually work their magic to get you something better than I could get you.
And one thing I wanted to clarify about the QR code, that I see that there is a hand, but just before that, the QR code that's inside the door, I know this is something that we had worked quite hard to make sure that we put it in there. it not only will let you see additional schematics or the schematic for it, but it does direct you to our support page. And on that, you'll have quick start guides, you'll have connections to go to our IC info page. Also, all of the videos that are within the software are also there. So consumables, installation videos are also there for you to see. So it's kind of a nice handy thing to have there right inside the door. You can just scan it with your phone and it'll take you directly to our support page for the Inuvion system.
Okay. Jeff, go ahead, please, and ask your question.
Yeah, this is Jeff Skronick with Elcon. For those of us who aren't using your software but have some of the hardware, we're using another chromatography system. Will you have drivers for other systems besides your own to control this instrument?
I'm so sorry. Could you repeat the question one more time? Is it about different software control?
Yeah, so an example, we're using Empower, but
Yeah.
we use some of your hardware. And so I want to know, and I'm the administrator for that system. And so do you have drivers that are compatible with Empower?
So not immediately. That's on the plan to be released in the very near future. So I would say, within the next 6 months maximum, and likely much sooner than that. If you need something right now, of course, then look to the Integrion or ICS 6000, which do have driver support on Empower. That's through the SII for Empower.
Okay, thank you.
So anion cation analysis, I might actually look to Brian or Alex for switching between anions and cations, just in terms of what the best practices are for kind of flushing system and things like that.
Or for me, right?
Oh,
so
Terry,
so yeah,
Terry did.
yes,
Sorry. Oh.
that's my world.
Staring right
Yeah.
at you.
So we've
I was
actually
about to pause and let it, yes, go to Terry.
So we actually have an application not specific for Inuvion, but where we converted, I believe it was a 2100 or 1100 from cations to anions, and it took about a couple hours. The thing you have to watch out for is, of course, your chemistry is opposite. So you need to make sure that you hydrate your suppressor before you disconnect it from the system, and flush your, well, yeah, same, flush your trap columns if you made eluent generation, and remove all those, not the lines, but flush the chemistry out of the system before you switch to the opposing chemistry. If you're using manually prepared eluents, then the only device you need to worry about flushing would be the suppressor. And you would flush a little bit with some either very low carbonate or eluent or DI water, and then plug it and put it aside. The problems when switching, again, has to do with opposing chemistry. So if you leave some acid in your system when you're going to anions, it's going to be an unhappy system. So you need to make sure you just get the eluent washed out of the system before you switch over. And the application, I think it was a tech note, showed about 2 hours switching over completely.
Just to Matthew's question about the difference between the EDC3 and EDC 500. I'm not an expert on the consumable side. I don't know if there's anyone here who can speak to that. I believe it's around the pressure tolerance. So because you can go up to 5,000 psi with the Inuvion system, you're better off using the EDC 500. The EDC3 will be limited to 3,000 psi. However, that shouldn't matter if you're doing a direct method transfer from.
It's the cable. So the cable has different pins. We didn't test to find out whether we could put a converter cable on it, and it would still read the system. But it's better if you switch to the 500. EGC 500s.